I think it's time we start. Good evening, everyone, again, and welcome to the second installment in our series of class on WebFlow. And like I said initially, I want to believe that we've taken some time to explore the world of WebFlow, learn some things on our own about what it is, what it can do, and grab some deep level stuffs about Webflow. So, for a quick recap of what we did last week, uh, we created our first website on Webflow, and we gave it a name, Webflow Tutorial Class, and then it has a live link, which is borderlessclass.webflow.io. So if you open this website on your phone, you are going to see what we did in our last class. So to get us up and running, I want to ask if anyone has any question from our last class. We can spare some 5 minutes to quickly answer those questions. Do we have any question from our last class? Can anybody hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, but I guess
We can hear.
The class is too silent for my liking. Let's respond, please, so that I know I'm not talking to myself. So do we have any question from our last class? Okay, I'll take silence as a no. So that means we can proceed with our class for today. So without further ado, now let's go back to the previous website we created. I'm going to open the designer now. So this is what we did in our previous class. I want to style this heading. So, but now today, like I said in the message I sent, we are going to go back now. I want us to go back and we are going to delete this one. We are going to delete it and we create a new class and a new website entirely. So that means once I delete this link will not be active again. So it's gone. Now you have a clean slate. Now let's create a new website. We're going to select a blank canvas and we're going to give it borderless I want to give it a name. We are going to be creating a portfolio website. So what name should we call it? Let me just say portfolio website. No, I'll give it this, say designer. That's the name of it. Let me give it an actual name. So I'll call it Benjamin. Looks like we have someone bearing Benjamin on the call. Is that? So let's create it. Benjamin, who is a visual designer. So now, this is our blank Canva, and the first thing we are going to do, I said we are going to create a nav bar. So just to show us an example of what a nav bar is, possibly you might have forgotten. If I open this website, let me open Apple's website for you and then show you what a nav bar is. This is this bar. This is called a navigation bar. Through this navigation bar, you have these breadcrumbs. They call it breadcrumbs. These are links that connects you to sections of the website. So these are called, this is a nav bar. So if I click on any of this link, it is going to navigate me. It is going to navigate me to a particular page on Apple's website. That is why it is called a nav bar. Nav is short for navigation. So we are going to be creating this section. You see that this is typical of a lot of websites. A lot of websites have navigation bars, and it helps the user to quickly get to a particular portion of that website that they are visiting. So let's go back here, and I want to create our own navigation bar. But before we do that, let's quickly do some setup for our new website. And the first thing we do, we come to the right here. Let me zoom in so that you can see. At the top right here, you have the style selector. So when you click on it, it's going to show you body all pages. So that means that whatever style you give to body all pages, I've selected it, is going to affect all of the elements you have changed here, whether you are changing the spacing or the positioning or typography or background or border or whatever. If you style these body all pages, it's going to affect all of the other pages on your website. So what you want to do here by selecting body all pages is that first, we are going to adjust our typography. So that means what type of fonts do you want to use on your website? For instance, now, Apple is using a particular font. They call it San Francisco Pro, or San Francisco, I guess that's the name. So we too want to have a custom typeface that is going to be unique to our website. And in our case, we want to use Inter. So Inter is a popular typeface, but if you check through this place, you are not going to see any Inter here because it's not part of the default fonts that are added to your WebFlow page. So for you to add a new font, I'm going to click on Add Font. I want to believe that we did this also in our last class, adding a new font. So I'm going to search here by typing Inter, and here we are. I'm going to select all of the variations, all of the variants, the width. You might decide not to select all of it, but for me, I'm going to be adding all of it. So I'll go back to my WebFlow page, and I'm going to reload it by pressing Command R or Control R if you are using a Windows. So if you come back here again, there's an issue with this. Okay. So I'll select body all pages now. And now when you check here, you will see that you can find Inter. So Inter is now added, and I'm going to select it. And so I'm going to set the base font size for my web page to 16. 16 is usually the default base font size for most websites. You can decide, but it's advisable you set it at possibly 16 or 14. And I'm going to adjust the line height for my font. I'm going to set it to dash, and I'm going to make it 1. Then what color do I want to give to my font? I want to make it black. You can change all of this later, but then this is like the basic setup I want to do here. So the only thing I'm affecting on body all pages is the typography. Now, okay. So remember in our last class, I told you that on this left side, you can add elements to your web page. So I'm going to select the first option that says add elements. You can see that you have a shortcut there. You can just simply press A on your keyboard or come here to add a new element. And there is a particular element you are going to be using a lot when you are working in WebFlow, and it is called a div block. I'm going to click on this div block, and it gets added to my web page. So in this div block, we are going to be customizing it as our navigation bar. Now, you can see that it has a name, which in web development language we call it class. So that is the name by which you call it. It's giving it a default name, but then I want to call it my own specific name. You remember how we did it in our last class? You come to the right side here and you give it a name, a class name. Now I'm going to call it my nav bar section. So one of the things you need to learn is how to give good naming to your classes. So once I've given it a nav bar section, you will see why you need to give correct naming to your design. Because when you are going to be having a lot of sections on your web page, you can easily navigate between from one section to the other. And in case you are building a website for a client and another person is going to be working on that website, it makes it easy for someone who did not build the website to understand the information hierarchy of that website. So it's a good practice to have a good naming convention when you are building a website in WebFlow. So I call this the navigation nav bar section. So inside this nav bar section, what I'm going to do is, let me come here and expand all of this. So inside this nav bar section, I'm going to give it a width. And what width do I want to give it? I want it to take 100% of this viewport. So I will type 100 percent here and click on enter. So you can see that it has disappeared, but do not worry. So now inside this nav bar, I'm going to add another element, which is also a div block. So inside this div block, if you look at it now, if you look at the hierarchy of the whole thing, you can see that the div block is inside the nav bar. So this div block, again, I'm going to give it a name. What name am I going to call it? I will call it nav bar container. Just go along with me. So this container is what is going to now hold the actual links to my portfolio website. Now, again, I'm going to add another div by simply pressing A. That will be created inside the navbar container. I'm going to add another div, and then I'm going to give it another name. I will call it. So what we are trying to achieve here is this. Let me come here. This is what we are trying to achieve. This is a sample design. This is the navbar section, and we want to have a logo on the left and the nav links on the right. So that means you are going to create a div. You are going to create a div inside the container that is towards the left here. That will be towards the left here, and you have another div that will be towards the right, so that they can sit nicely inside the container. So let's go back here and look at our navigator inside the nav bar. So I will call this one nav bar left, because this one is going to be towards the left side. And again, I'm going to add another one. I will call it, now you guess right, nav bar right. So look at it again now. The two are now inside the container. You can see. So for you to understand how this already looks like, I'm going to give this nav bar container a border, just for the sake of visual understanding, so that you can be able to visualize what you are doing. I'm going to give it a border. I will come here, select this dashed line, and give it 2 pixels, and give this let's say something here. I'll give it this, so that you can see what you are trying to build. Now if you preview it, now it's not showing because it doesn't have a predefined height. But we don't need to give it a predefined height. All we need to do is to set the elements inside of it to a certain height. So that is what is going to give the nav bar its own height. If you look at the nav bar section, remember we set it at the width of 100%. So the child inside of it, which is the nav bar section, let's also give it 100%. Now, nav bar left, I'm going to give it a color so that you can see what you are trying to build. I'm going to give it a background color. Let me give it a background color of this. And then the nav bar right, I'm going to also give it a background color for you to be able to visualize what we are trying to do. Now, as you can see, the nav bar left is on top and the nav bar right is on top. But this is what we want to achieve. We want them to sit, what do we call this now? Horizontally, right? I mean vertically. From left to right, not from top to bottom. That is what we want to achieve. So how do we go about doing that? We are going to do that by changing the display property of the parent container of this navbar right and navbar left. So if you look at this, what is the parent container? It is what? Navbar. If you toggle this, you can see that the navbar container is what is holding. Hey, what is that? The navbar container is what is holding both navbar left and navbar right. So remember, you can do that by coming towards the right and changing the layout display. So let me zoom in on it again for you to see. This is the layout display, and here you have block, which is the default. Here you have flex, here you have grid, here you have inline block, here you have inline, and here you can hide the element entirely. So for the sake of this class, and most of the works you are going to be doing, you are going to be using either flex or grid most of the time. So these are the two you are going to be using mostly. So for the sake of this class, for what we want to achieve, we are going to change the display property for the navbar container to flex. Now look at what happens when I change it to flex. You can see that now, instead of stacking on top of each other, they are now situated side by side. But we have not achieved what we want to achieve yet. We want them to be spaced apart from each other. So to do that, we are going to play around with the property of the navbar container display options. So what direction are we looking at? Excuse me. Navbar container. Yeah. So let me keep this here so that you can always see it. So the navbar container. Now we want, this is horizontal now. It means that they are stacked from left to right. But if you say vertical, they are going to be stacked from top to bottom. But this is what we want, horizontal. And the justification is what we are going to adjust. We want it to be space between. Now if I click on space between, look at what happens. It moves from, they are now spaced apart. They are now spaced apart. So now we have achieved one significant milestone in getting to where we are going. Now, if you look at what we have here, we have the width of the navbar defined for us. The width, we might not actually bother about that, but then the height is 80 pixels. So if you look at this, let me just quickly show you this. If you look at work, and then we try to look at it, it's like there are some padding around it. 26.5, 25. Looks like someone is in the class. Let me. So now let's add some content inside of the navbar element. We are going to add our logo. So we don't have a logo yet, so we are going to just type in the word Benjamin, because that's the name of the designer we are working for. So I'm going to type in A and a div block. So we call this one our logo container. So inside of the logo container, we are going to add a text block. So let me go here. Here you can see text block under typography. So once I click on it, you have it inside of your logo container. So let's give it a class name of, say, logo. And we're going to change the text towards Benjamin. So we are going to change the property of that text. Let's change the color to, okay, let's not change the color. Let's change the width to black. So as a way to style it, let me put a full stop at the end. And so because now you can visually see what we have done here, I'm going to remove the background of the nav bar left because we don't actually need it. So I'm going to remove it. And the same thing for the nav bar right. I'm going to remove it. Now, Benjamin, and then for the nav bar right, I'm going to add a navigation nav link, a nav link wrapper that will hold all of the links to the pages on our website. So there is going to be a wrapper or a container that will hold all of these links together. So what are we going to call it? We're going to call it a what? Navigation link. Nav link what? Container. Or let's call it wrapper. The nav link wrapper. Okay, just to maintain consistency, let's change it to container. Nav link container. So inside of this nav link container, we are going to be adding what? We are going to be adding our text link. So this text link are already predefined for us. When you click on those text links, it's going to take you to a particular page that you have defined for that particular link. So I'm going to add several text link. Add this. I'm going to make it 3. Then let's change the name. So we have about, work, and contact. About, work, and contact. Now you can see that the nav container is adjusting to the height of the elements inside of it. It's adjusting to the elements inside of it. That is because we have not defined the height of the individual elements inside of our navbar container. So to do that, let's go around and do some adjustments to our nav, to the navbar left and the navbar right. So one of the things we can do is to adjust the spacing. So remember in our last class, I told you that the padding is the spacing within an element, and the margin is the spacing outside of an element. So in this case, what we want to adjust is the margin. Now this is the space outside of this Benjamin, so that it's going to give an height to the navbar container. So I'm going to come here. Let me say, let's give it some predefined height. I'm going to give it 24 as the top margin, and then the bottom margin I will give it 24. Now for the left margin, I'm going to give it 70. And okay, so let me undo this. Now a better way to go about this is to just apply the spacing to the container instead of applying the spacing to the individual elements inside. So that will save you a lot of time. So instead of doing this, let's just apply the spacing to the navbar container. But in this case now, we are adjusting the space inside. So what are we going to be doing? We are going to be adjusting the padding instead of the margin, because we want to give spacing to the elements inside. So this one I will give it 24. And you can see that it is changing already. I'll give this one 24. I'll give this 70. I'll give this 70. So you can see that. So if I hover on this, you can see those green dashed horizontal lines is telling us that those are the spaces that we have inside of the navbar container. You can see it over there. So if I try to adjust any of it, it's going to be changing. You can see. So if I try to adjust any of it, it's going to change. If I try to adjust any of it, it's going to change. So that way, you can achieve good spacing in your elements in the navbar container. So now, let's come over here and quickly do some corrections to our nav links. Now, what we have here, let's give all of this a class name. Let's call it nav link. So I've given this one a class name. I want to demonstrate something to us. I will adjust this so that it can look a bit like this. It's underlined, but then I will change the color from the default to let's come to typography here and change the color to black. Now, this one has a class name of navlink. So see what happens now if I apply the same class name to the second element. If I apply it, it's going to change automatically to the settings I've done. You can see that it has changed. Let me zoom in so that you can see properly. If I apply the same class name also to this, it's going to change. So that means that you can make your work faster by using the proper class naming convention, like by using a proper class name. So if you use a proper class name for any of your nav link, if you adjust one of it, it's going to affect all of the other elements. So in this case now, let me try and change a particular settings about the about. Like say, I want to increase the font size to 24. If I do that, you see that all of the elements that are having the same class name are going to change. You can see that everything has changed now. So that is just one hint that can make our workflow faster. But now you can see that all of the text are close together. There is no spacing between them. So what can we do about that? This is the benefit of putting your nav link inside a container. Because on the container, you can apply a setting that affects all of the elements inside of it. So if you come to the left here, you can see that our nav link has a nav link container. So I'm going to go over to the right side and do some adjustments to our nav link container so that we can give proper spacing to the elements inside of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is to change the display property to flex again. Once I change it to flex, then one of the options we have here is called gap. Let me zoom in so that you can see. We have gap here. So this gap can help you to adjust the spacing between the elements in a particular container, in this case, our nav link container. So what we want to adjust is what? The column gap. The column gap. So I want to give it a column gap of 12. So once I do that, you can see that there is spacing between our elements now, but I want to increase it. Let me give it 24. Or let me even give it 40. So now you have a proper spacing. This is kind of locked, so it shouldn't be so. I give this here. Okay. So now we have our proper spacing between the nav links in our container. Now, let me remove the border so that because we don't need the border around the nav link again because basically what we want to achieve now has been achieved. So now we have something similar to this. We have the logo and we have the nav links. So let me give it a kind of a background color for the sake of visual for visual awareness. So I'm going to go back to our nav bar container. I'm going to give it a background color so that you can at least see what is going on. Let me give it say purple. Then let me make it a bit fade. So at least you can see what we have there. So there you go. So now we have successfully created our nav bar. So I'll pause at this junction to know if you have any question on what we have done so far. Any question? Hello? I want to believe I've not been talking to myself. Yes, bro Joshua, please go ahead and ask your question.
The challenges I'm having with my system now is that all these elements showing on the system with you
Yes.
there is not even showing on my system here.
It's
So
not
I
what?
don't know it's not even showing on my system here. I don't know where the problem originated from.
All
And
of the
I'm on
pieces.
my dashboard now.
Okay. So you can't see anything on your dashboard. Can you let me stop sharing my screen? So can you share your screen with us?
Ah, let me try.
Can you do that? Hello?
I'm with you.
I want to stop sharing my screen now. Then I want you to share your screen with us so that we can see what is going on. We are just going to use this as a test case. So we may not be doing this all of the time, but let's just see what is going on. So I've stopped sharing my screen now. You can go ahead and share your screen.
So was this class recorded?
Yes, yes, the class is being recorded.
Sorry, sir. I'm using phone for the meeting. No, I'm not using laptop.
Oh, that means you can't share your screen for us to see there.
And bro Joshua, I don't think you can use. Are you using laptop to practice or you're using phone?
Laptop.
And the best thing you can do is take a snapshot of your screen, of your laptop, and send to us on the group. I will respond to that.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
I think
Yeah,
that's better.
yeah. So we can forge ahead now.
All right, thank you for that. So, do we have anybody with any question again? Any question? So, if you don't have any question, just have it at the back of your mind that I'm going to be giving out an assignment so that you can go ahead and also practice. Possibly, when you are practicing, you might likely run into some difficult tasks. So, I think that will help us to keep engaged in what we are doing. Yeah. So now we have our nav bar. Let me share my screen again. We have our nav bar. It's now set and ready. So I want to quickly just go ahead and then let's do the hero section. The first part of the website page that you see when you open it is called the hero section. So in this case now, we have the image of a lady here, and then the title of the work that is doing. The person is a visual designer, and then some text that explains, okay, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And basically that's just it. So we are going to go ahead and try to do something similar. Because of time, we might not be able to do a lot of customizations on the home page, but then I'm just going to demonstrate to us how we can go about doing that. Possibly in our subsequent classes, we're going to take more time to do some customizations. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we are going to be adding a new section under the body. And to do that, again, you are going to need to create a new div block. So just have it at the back of your mind that you're going to be using a lot of div block when you are working in WebFlow. Yeah. So this block now, can someone guess what name we are going to give it? Someone should just tell me what is the proper name to give to this one. Hello?
Heroes container.
Yeah, that is a good try. But we are creating a new section, so you call it hero section. This might look kind of boring at first, but with more practice, you see that it is something that is interesting, and with time, you can increase your speed of how you work on the website. So I don't want you to be deterred by whether this is moving too slow or not. It has to be slow at first, but with time, you get used to the workflow, and then you can increase your work speed. So that is it. Now, under our hero section, let's follow the same pattern that we have here. So we are going to create what? We are going to create another div block, and we call it hero container. So inside of our hero container, like we have here, we have two sections basically on the hero section. We have one to the left and we have one to the right. So these are ways by which you can easily visualize the structure of a website by mere looking at the arrangement of the elements on the website. You can easily say, okay, this is the kind of display I'm going to use for this website. This is the kind of display I'm going to use for this website. So these are ways by which you can start to visualize the structure of a website and easily come up with a design that works for that website. So let's go ahead. We can see that we have one on the left, we have one on the right. So let's go ahead and create so I'm using a kind of a shortcut to quickly go to searching for elements that I want to add to a website, and that is Command E if you are using a Mac, and Control E if you are using a Windows device. So I can just type here div and easily click to add this. So I'll call this one hero left. And then again, I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to call it hero right. So again, you can see that they are stacked on top of each other, but then we want them to be stacked from left to right. What are we going to do? Can someone tell me what adjustment do we need to do to achieve that, so that the elements can be side by side and not on top of each other? Yes? We've done this before, so I want someone to tell me.
We are going to change the layout.
Great. What are we changing the layout to?
Horizontal.
Yes, but you have to change it first to flex. So when you change it to flex, let's go ahead and change it to flex. Then you have options. You see, initially while it was at block, you do not have any options underneath. But once you change it to flex, you have several options that you can play around with. So you can see that once you change it to flex, it's now giving us horizontal direction. You can change it to vertical, but that's not what we want. So we want it to be horizontal, and we want the elements to be spaced between. So we click on this, and that is it. We have it on both ends of the div container. So on our hero container, if we look at this, you can see that there is space. There is a kind of space between the logo, the nav bar, and the hero. There is a kind of space at the top. So how do we achieve that? We come here again and we adjust the padding for the hero container. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add some content inside the hero left. So inside the hero left again, let us visualize the arrangement of the elements. Here you have one section. Here you have another section. Yes. And here you have another section. So I'm teaching you this trick for you to understand how to structure your design. Because if you do not structure your design properly, you are going to run into a lot of challenge. So inside our hero left, we have how many sections? We have 3 sections, and they are stacked on top of each other. They are stacked on top of each other. So let's do that now. Inside the hero left, that means we are creating 3 elements. And these elements are what? They are basically text. They are text elements. So we are going to call this one our H1. That is header, heading, the highest hierarchy of text. We are going to give it heading. So this one, we can use a text block, and this one can also be a text block or a paragraph. So let's go ahead and do that. Inside our hero left, let's add the first one. Let's give it a text block, and then what's the content? Branding, image making. So we can change all of this later. Branding, image making. Then again, in this place now, we're going to add an heading. So you can see that you have different categories of heading. You have H1, 2, 3 to 6. So the highest hierarchy is what we are going for, and it's a visual designer. Then the last one is this one. So we are going to change the text there. We are going to give this one a paragraph, and then we change it to say, hi, I am a visual designer from Badon, Nigeria. Okay, let's change this one to say, hi, Benjamin Franklin. Yes, let's give Benjamin Franklin. and then says, I am a visual, I design visually appealing graphics and digital designs that works for you and your brand. Voila. So there we have it. That's just a one-line description of what you do. I design visually appealing graphics and digital designs that work for your brand. Now on the left, we have an image here. So now let me go about and teach us how to add image to our designs. So what I'm going to do here is not actually part of our class, but I'm just going to do it. We have this image, so I'm going to go ahead and export it. I'm going to export it as a PNG, and I'm going to save it to a particular borderless scale WebFlow class. I'm going to save it here. So inside of this arrow right, we are going to add an image container. This is it. Under media, go to image, and when you click on it, it's going to ask you to choose an image. So once you click on choose an image, notice that this section opens up for you, which is called assets. So presently, you do not have any assets on your website. So what you do is you go here and click on this cloud with an arrow that is pointing up to choose a file or files. So when you click on it, it's going to open this interactive folder, and I'm going to navigate to the particular folder where I have my file. You can see it here. This is it. So I'm going to click on open, and it's going to upload it. It's going to turn green. Yeah, nice. So good. We have our image. Let's preview what we've done so far. Now, we can see that our website is taking shape. So let's quickly do some styling to our text. This is our H1. I'm going to remove this default styling that WebFlow usually adds to it. Just go ahead and remove it so that you can add your own styling. And I'm going to delete this and then select all H1 headings. So once I style all my H1 headings, it's going to affect all other H1 that I use on the website. So I'm going to change the font size. I'm going to change the font weight to 900 black. And I'm going to call it, say this is going to be 64. And I'm going to change the line height to 1, or let me say 1.2. Yes. Now for this, which is our paragraph, I'm going to select all paragraphs, and I'm going to make it 400 normal and black. I think this is okay. I'm going to change the line height to 1.5 so that if it breaks, there are going to be proper spacing in between the text. Now, if you look at our element, you can see that this is centralized. This is centralized in relative to this image. So what we are going to do to get that done is that you go to the parent container, which is our hero container, and then we come here and play around with the alignment. Presently, the alignment is set to stretch, but now we're going to set it to what? Center. So look at what happens once I click on center. You can see that it's now aligned to the center. So that is how you can get that done. And you can see that this is is not having any spacing at the end of the website. So we are going to add spacing to it. And to do that, remember how we did it the other time. Let's go to our hero container. So we are going to add spacing to it, which is our padding. Initially, for our navbar container, we added 70, 24, 70, 24. So to make our website look even and orderly, we are going to add the same figure. So make this 70, make this 24, make this 24, and make this 70. But then we want to increase the spacing at the top here. Looks too close to it. So we're going to increase the spacing at the top to say, let me give it 100. It's not there yet. Let me say 200. It looks too much. Let's say 150. Okay, there we go. Now you can see that there is no spacing between the elements that we have here. So we are going to adjust that also. If you look at this, there is sufficient spacing. Let's give it equal spacing. So that is the benefit of putting all of this inside a container. They are all inside the hero container. So we can come here, change the display to, now you can see that it is set as horizontal, but we want it to be standing on top of each other. So we select vertical. And once you have selected vertical, you want to adjust the spacing in between the vertical elements. So here we are going to adjust the row property of the gap and not the column. So let's give it, say, 20. There we go. Then you can see that this is giving us a straight line, but that is not what we want. We want the line to break. So what we are going to do in that case, we are going to do some further adjustments to the hero container. So let's give our hero section 100% width. The hero container, let's also give it 100. Come here, 100%. Then each of the elements inside of the container, we are going to give it percentage in terms of width. So for this, let's make this, say, 40%. And then we give the hero right 60%. Okay, that's not cool. Doesn't look right. So let's change it to, say, 50%. Then let's give this 50% in that case. No, that's not what we want. Just hold on. Okay. All right. I'm trying to undo the changes that we have done. Okay, so that I can explain what I just did. Now, I want to ensure that this line breaks to the next line so that it's not a straight line and it looks kind of awkward. So I'm going to give this container, let me give it a width of its own. I'm going to give it 40% of the parent width so that the line can break. And for this, I'm going to give it, say, let me try 40% also. And I will change the display to flex, then justify it to the right. Yeah, there we go. So let's preview what we have here. You can see that this is still breaking, but then we're going to adjust that in a different class, not today. So now I want to add something that is not on this page, which is what we call a call to action button. So for instance, I'm visiting your website and then you are telling me you are a visual designer who designs visually appealing graphics and digital designs that works for you and your brand, and I want to reach out to you. How can I easily do that? You can add a call to action button to your website such that people can easily see it and be able to take action without wasting too much time. So to do that, I'm going to come here under the arrow left. I'm going to add another div block and I'm going to style it. So inside this div block, I'm going to call it my hero, or let me just say CTA. CTA stands for call to action button. And I want to give it color. I want to give it, let me copy this, the background color. But then I want it to, yes, I want it to be that. So inside of this CTA button, I'm going to add a text. I'm going to add a text block. So what CTA should we give it? Let me see, start a project. Let me style the text block, change the display. I'm going to give it, say, 24. Like that's too much. Let's say 16. Now you can see that this thing is stretching towards the end, which is not what we want. So you are going to change the alignment from stretch, that is for the parent. You're going to change it from stretch to left aligned or start. So this one is going to be corrected automatically. So let's try and increase the padding towards the left to say 40, 40. So, and then let's change the text color. Let's change the property. Let's make this kind of bold. Let's change it to white. Start a project. So I think this kind of look a bit presentable. So if we look at it, you can immediately see that we have something that we can present to people. Now, do not mind that there are a lot of white spaces on your website. So it depends on the kind of design that you have and whatever customizations you might want to make to it. So yeah, I think that should do for that. Now, we have successfully created our hero section. So you can see that we have two sections. Now we have the nav bar, we have the hero section. Now, let's go ahead and publish our website so that the world can actually see what we have done. On the top bar here, you have several options. Here you can see. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm trying to do. Here you can see publish project. So when you click on it, here is the website link. But for us to have, okay, I don't know, it's giving us a predetermined website link. So let's just go ahead and click on publish. Let's visit the link. So there you have it. Your website is live, and I think the address is benjaminvisualdesigner.webflow.io. Let me copy that and paste it in the chat box so that you can also check it out. You will check out that website now. You're going to see exactly what we have done here. So you will notice that if you view it on a mobile phone, the website is not going to be responsive. That is because we have only done the desktop view of the design. We have not done the mobile. If you look at the design that we have here, there are two options here. You have one for the large screen, which is the desktop, and you have one for mobile, which is this. So our time is fast spent, but let's quickly take some time and do the mobile responsiveness of our website. Can we go ahead and do that? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Looks like other people are not responding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So for the sake of so that, because most people today they visit websites on their mobile phone, so let's try and create the mobile version of that website so that people can be able to view it easily on their phones. Now, at the top section here, there is a section where you can adjust the breakpoint. They call it breakpoint of your design. Now, the one you have here, I want to zoom in again so that you can see what I'm trying to do. So what we have here is the base breakpoint. And this is going to be the view that you have on tablet. And this is going to be the view you have on mobile landscape. And this is going to be the view you have on mobile portrait, which is what we want to achieve. So if I zoom in and I select tablet, if you open the website on the tablet, this is how it's going to look like. If you open the website on your phone and you put it in landscape mode, this is what you're going to see, which is pretty messy. And if you open it on a portrait on your phone in portrait mode, this is what you're going to see. And I'm sure this is not going to be a good experience for your viewers. This is not what we want. So we want something that looks presentable. Now let's go ahead, go back here, and we want to actually do something similar to what we have here, where we have the logo on top, and then the text are stacked on top of each other, and the image comes at the base of the design. So how do we go about doing that? Can someone tell me what you are going to do? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You're going
Okay.
to add.
Yes, go ahead, please. Elizabeth. Hello?
I think we are going to add new. I don't know. We are going to add new badge, just like we did for the other one.
Okay. Actually, that's not what we're going to do, but at least I appreciate the fact that you, you at least said something. So what we're going to do in this case is to play around with the display, the layout. So understand that on a mobile phone, most of the way you are viewing your design is going to be in portrait mode. It's going to be in portrait. So your design has to start from top to bottom. But maybe on a wider screen like a tablet or a desktop or a laptop, it's going to really be from left to right. Your designs can take more space. So what I'm going to do in this case is that we are going to select the mobile portrait option, and then let's start to play around with what we have here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, now let me quickly say something here. When you are working on the base breakpoint, which is this, if you read what we have here, that's one. It says desktop styles apply at all breakpoints unless they are edited at a larger or smaller breakpoint. Say start of styling here. So what this means is that all the settings that we have done on this base breakpoint is what is going to reflect in all of the other breakpoints that we have, except we go to a specific breakpoint and adjust the settings for that breakpoint, and that's what we want to do. So we are going to go to our mobile portrait mode now, and we're going to adjust the settings, and these settings is only going to affect the mobile breakpoint. So let's go ahead and do that. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the padding. I'm going to change this to 20 and this to 20, this to 20. You're going to see the magic unfold. So for our design, all of these elements are not showing, they are hidden. So what we're going to do is you go to your navbar container, which is your navbar right, and you're going to go to your display and click on hide. Boom. Your elements are now hidden. Now you are going to centralize your navbar left, which is your logo. So you click on navbar container and select justify to center. Can you see now? So our website is taking shape. Now the next thing we are going to do here, let's come to the hero section and adjust our settings also. So for the hero container, I'm going to adjust this I'm going to give it, say, 40 and give this 20. 20. I'm going to leave this at what it is now. And looks like everything is centralized. So select your hero container, change the direction to vertical so that they are stacked on top of each other. But you can see that it's still breaking. So what you're going to do in this case now is come here, adjust the property for each of the child elements. Remember the other time we gave it percentage width. So here you are going to remove it and say you are selecting auto. Can you see that it is changing? For this one also, you are going to remove it and set it to auto. Can you see that we are almost close to what we want to build? So all we need to do now is to align our elements to the center. So for the hero left, select align to center. Now for this text, just go to the text settings and align it directly from here. Align your text to center. And for this also, your paragraph, actually we have to remove that. Align it to center. This is also going to be aligned to center. So basically you have, now the only thing we need to adjust now is the spacing. The only thing we need to adjust at this junction now is the spacing of the element. You can see that this is too close to each other. So go to your hero container. Remember the other time we adjusted the row, but in this case we are going to adjust, okay, we adjusted the column, but in this case we are going to adjust the row. Let's give it, say, 20. Looks like that is not enough. Let's say 40. Now there you go. And if this text looks too big, then you can adjust it. Go over here and say, okay, let's make this 40. The visual designer, I am Benjamin Franklin, and this is what I do, blah, 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 all of that. So let me go ahead and publish. Now, can you visit the same website again now? Can you reload it and see what happens on your phone? Anybody has opened it? Has anybody opened it? Hello? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. Probably they are trying to open it.
Yeah.
You see that it has changed?
Yes.
Okay, so on my phone, can you see now? I'm opening the website on my phone and see that exactly what you have there is what is showing on. So you can see how, will I say it is easy? Yes, it is easy. If you keep at it, you can see how easy it is for you to easily build a portfolio website, maybe for a client or for yourself, and put yourself out there in the world, and people can see what you are doing, and then you can gain visibility. So tonight, we have been able to build out a live website. We created the nav bar section, and then we created the hero section, and at the same time, we worked on the website's responsiveness, such that if you open it on on your desktop and on your mobile phone, it's going to look presentable. Now, what we did not do is to adjust the settings for the tablet and the mobile landscape view. If you follow the same process that I just did, you are going to get all of this looking nice and neat on tablet and on mobile landscape. So it's basically the same process that you are following. Once you have been able to lay the solid groundwork for yourself, then it becomes easy for you to adjust the elements in your design. But if you have not done the proper thing by creating containers in which you are going to be housing your elements, the elements on your web page, it becomes difficult for you to adjust any of these contents easily. It's going to become pretty difficult. But if you do the proper thing by putting your elements inside a container and grouping your elements together such that they can have a visual hierarchy, then you can apply one settings to the container that affects all of the elements inside of it. So that way, it makes it easy for you to adjust your website in no time. So tonight, I want to believe that we have been able to gain a deeper insight into how to use WebFlow to create a website. So I want to give us an assignment tonight. I want us to go back and then create our own portfolio website. And in our next class, you're going to be showcasing it to me. So in the course of that, between now and Wednesday, if you have any challenge, if you have any question, just drop it on the group page and I'll be willing to supply answers to those questions. And if possible, we have other people on the group that knows the right answer to it. They can also help out. So that is all we are being able to achieve tonight. So next time, we're going to be adding more sections to our web page, and then a couple of some other things that we can do to our website. We're going to be doing it in our next class. So that will be it for tonight for our class. If you have any questions, please, it's time to ask. Any question?
Yeah. Yes, good evening. My name is Akin Bolade.
Okay, good evening.
Firstly, I want to really appreciate you for tonight's class. It has been well educative and explanatory. I just want to ask some questions based on some of the fundamental tools that we use. Although I've been facing some challenges, my area is the area where I am presently now. There has not been light for I think more than 12 years now, so always running off oil and the lights. So I'm probably thinking of switching location any moment from now. But then the question I want to ask is based on some of the tools. I think some of them does not work on my system fully. Is it because I'm not using the paid version, or maybe the other versions I can just get so that I can have access to? For example, like the Elementor. Do I need to get a full version of Elementor and
for that one, I want you to direct the question. I think that was what said in the last section of our class. That's on WordPress. The tutor is actually on the call tonight, but I don't know if you want to respond to that.
You can mute your background noise. The person that asked the question.
Okay, I think he's muted himself now. So you might want to engage him. His name is Toby Emmanuel. Is on the call tonight. He's the one who took the class on WordPress. And if you have any challenge with that, you can reach out to him directly on the group page, and I believe it's going to be able to help out as in regards to that. So for this class, we are treating WebFlow, which is a bit different from WordPress. So if you have any challenge regarding WebFlow, you can direct the question to me. So, but if you have any question regarding WordPress, installation of themes, Elementor, and all those stuffs, you can direct the question directly to Toby, who took the class. So he's going to be able to help you out with that. And I also want to ask if you have been able to watch some of the classes that were done when we had the first section of the class, because some of these things have been tested in those classes.
Yes, I did watch some of them.
Yeah, please. So if you have any challenge, do not hesitate to ask on the group page. We'll be willing to provide answers for you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. So do we have any other questions? Any other question? All right. So I will take our silence as to mean that we don't have any question. So do not forget the assignment I'm giving out to everyone. Next class, you are going to be showing me, you are going to be sending your link. If possible, you can do it between this night and then maybe tomorrow. Send a link to the web to the group page, and then everybody can view what you have been able to do. By following the simple steps you have done in this video, you should be able to put up a web page of your own in no time. Yeah, so that will be all for tonight. I want to appreciate everyone for sticking around. For the class has been running for like 1 hour 40 minutes now. I want to appreciate everyone, and thank you. See you again on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Same time, same station. Yeah, that's it for me tonight. Goodbye,
Okay.
everyone.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Yes, good night.